From the Windows, Doors, and More studios, your one-stop shop for all your kitchen and bath needs. The Pat Miller Program. Whoa, 92.3 FM and 1190 AM. Depend on it.
And welcome back. Thanks for hanging on to us into the second hour on this Saturday of the Pat Miller Program. Remember, if you'd like to send me a text, you can do it at 46862. That's 46862. Text the word WOWO first, then your question or comment comes right here. Or you can email me when I'm on the air or even after I'm gone. Pat Miller, all one word, no dots or dashes, patmiller@wowo.com. Somebody else that has no dots or dashes because he's just too straightforward. Coming to us from inside the Beltway, the White House correspondent for Real Clear Politics, Philip Wegman. Philip, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me, Pat.
It must be a really boring time for you around D.C. There's nothing going on. Nothing's really happening. Nobody has any opinions about anything. I think we're all knowing that it's just a down week, right?
It's a down week. You're certainly correct.
Yeah, and if you believe that, I got a bridge in Brooklyn that I'll sell you at an excellent price, by the way. So let's talk. I hit something a little while ago, but I don't think I've hit it with the way that I think you can. There are a lot of accusations back and forth about deep state and fake news and deep fake. To me, deep fake is this. You take something that comes out in audio and you either splice it or dice it, or you put something else behind the person on a video that's not really what was there. You try to put them where they weren't. To me, that's deep fake. Playing a 3-minute cut of the president or of a senator or of a congressman, if they were asked a question by somebody on video and they gave a 3-minute answer, to play that 3-minute answer, how is that deep fake?
Your guess is as good as mine. And I think what you're getting at here, Pat, is something that is rather tricky. So obviously, deep fakes are this insidious new result of artificial intelligence. You can have a video of a politician or a celebrity saying something that they never actually did. And it's one of these things where you have to take a second look at it and see, all right, well, is this a computer-generated animation or is this the real thing? And I think all of us should be on guard for that sort of thing because just around the corner, it's going to be very easy for AI to copy people's voices, to create some of these images that are not real. That said, what the White House has done of late is they have argued that these videos that are unaltered of President Biden, either being confused or looking in the wrong direction, that those themselves are what White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre called deep fakes and cheap fakes. And that is what is sort of startling, is that there is a very real concept of a deep fake that you pointed out, and then there's this political argument that some of these videos that are being shared of the president, the White House says, well, they're not fair, they're fake, they're out of context, and it muddies the waters a little bit.
Yeah, and look, there's not a president on the planet now or any time in the history of our country that hasn't been maligned over things that they said or didn't say. I don't like it when it happens to my guy or whatever. But I will tell you, it's one thing to malign my guy when I really, really don't think he should be maligned, but he gets maligned. But the reasoning is they don't like him, they twist what he said, or they reinterpret what he said. But this thing about, well, that's not what he said, when clearly on any kind of a video or an audio, what he said is what he said. I mean, I don't know what else you could do about it.
So the White House here was particularly galled by two videos. One of them was during President Biden's trip to Normandy for the celebration of the anniversary of D-Day. And in that video, you can look up and watch for yourself, President Biden is at a demonstration of some parachutists. And while the other world leaders are looking in one direction, suddenly President Biden turns and looks in another, and he seems kind of out of it.
Yeah.
That video, if you zoom out and you see a fuller picture, you can see that President Biden was looking at one of the parachutists who had landed a little farther, where the rest of the group was looking at, the main attraction, which
Right.
was, I think, 3 or 4 parachutists. It's a little bit of an awkward image, but, it doesn't show the president sort of wandering into thin space.
Well, and you could make that assumption, and you could make that say, well, here's what was happening, and then, like you said, pan out and show it, and then people could be like, oh, okay. I mean, I don't really care that he wasn't looking at the parachutist that everybody else was looking at, but he was looking at one that caught his eye. Fine, do that. But wandering off the stage and the Prime Minister of Italy has to go grab you.
That's right. These other videos, these other instances, those are the ones that are raising questions. And while the White House is focused on that video from Normandy and then another video during this California fundraiser where President Biden seems to be looking out, staring at the crowd for about 10 seconds, and then former President Obama takes his hand and leads him off stage. Some of the president's critics have said that, that demonstrates that he's not all there. I think that what that video actually shows is here you have Biden soaking in the moment, and then former President Obama, frankly, in sort of a patronizing way, taking his hand and leading him off stage.
Yeah.
So you can have arguments about what these 2 videos demonstrate. There's a lot of interpretation there. Where the White House is going to get themselves into trouble, though, is when they say that these videos are fake.
Right.
Well,
right.
They haven't been digitally altered. And then, frankly, there's a lot of other moments with President Biden where he demonstrates his age, where either a joke doesn't land or he gets confused and says the wrong word or he walks in the wrong direction. And it's almost as if by arguing that, what voters and the audience sees isn't real when, it is real. The president turned in the wrong direction for the parachute demonstration. The president froze in front of that crowd. These things that could perhaps be explained and put in proper context, that they are drawing more attention to them, and then they make it, they draw more attention also to the undeniable senior moments that the president does have, and those have been caught on tape. And all of this just underscores the fact that President Biden is the oldest president we have ever had.
Yep.
And this is a liability for their campaign. This is something that they're sensitive about. And I'm not certain that this cheap fake phrase that White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre rolled out, I'm not certain that that's going to serve them well long term.
Well, Peter Doocy, who's one of them that kind of went on and defended the fact that people are saying, no, this is who he really is. He's saying, look, we've got viral Biden videos after what he called the White House meltdown over this. These clips, he said, are not being manipulated. You might not like them, you might not want them, but if we're not cutting them short, if we're not showing them from an angle that's not the right angle, if we're doing it in some weird way to make it different than what it actually was, fine. But that's not what's happening here. The only thing about manipulation here is we're showing videos that you don't want shown.
Yeah, and it's hard to disagree with Peter there, because one of the things that is very healthy about journalism is that your colleagues check your work. And sometimes everyone runs in the wrong direction, and this can go off the rails. But when there is objective evidence of something, if the Fox News camera has an image of the president walking on stage, then the CNN camera does as well. And you can compare and contrast the images. And so if you want to understand why some of these network guys are so prickly about this, it's because of the allegation that they would somehow lie to their audience. You can have different opinions, sure, about what the video represents, but you can't have a different set of facts. And so I think that the reaction to this White House rhetoric was pretty severe. And also, there has been a lot of talk about Biden being senile. I do not think that's fair. I don't think we have evidence of a senile president. What we do have evidence of is a president who is an older gentleman.
Yep.
It is a very taxing job.
Yep.
And so for them to sort of demand that everything is okay, that the president isn't slowing down, that he doesn't have the weight of the world on his shoulders. That's a difficult
That's a hard sell. That's a hard sell.
All of us there who see him on a day-to-day basis, and especially for these networks who have much better access than your average reporter.
Yeah, look, on Thursday, I turned 70, okay? So I'm a decade behind the president. There are people in this building that will tell you sometimes that Miller is just a mess. He's, where are my keys? Where did I leave my coffee cup? All that kind of stuff.
It's fake news, Pat.
See, but when you're the president of the United States and world leaders are watching what's going on, some of them are our friends who need reassuring. The guy with his finger on the button, or the guy who has, the scope of the world, the guy who is the leader of the free world, as we used to call the president of the United States. Our enemies need to know our guy's in charge. So, don't mess with us. We're not telling you to kowtow down to us, but don't mess with us. And our friends are having a problem because they're like, okay, which Joe Biden is there today? Who is it that we're getting? And I think all those are legitimate concerns.
And one of the things that we did see out of this G7 summit and also the Normandy trip is that world leaders seem to say that they were able to do work with Biden, that they were not concerned about things. But this is why the current White House tack has been so unusual. The less we see of Biden, the more we're going to magnify some of these slip-ups or screw-ups. If you look at Donald Trump, for instance, how many times did that man put his foot in his mouth?
Oh, yeah.
Even his own allies and friends will admit that he communicates in such a way where sometimes he says the exact wrong thing. And, Donald Trump is even self-conscious about this. He's made jokes about it.
Yep. I mean, when you speak off the cuff will come back and slap you in the face sometimes.
Yeah.
And he has done that. But, the people around him have said, okay, we need, and sometimes Trump will come back, and try to make it right. Although on another point, this is just here, my politics are showing now. When they pick on Trump and they say he called for the insurrection that happened at the Capitol on January the 6th. If you listen to everything he said, that's not what he said. And that's not what he was condoning. Now, you've got to pull all the video out and watch it and then draw that conclusion. So in my view, if you want deep fake, that's deep fake. Let's don't play everything he said. Let's just play the part we want to hear.
I think that this is sort of the danger here of throwing around this term so loosely, right? Because
Right.
you can have opponents of the White House suddenly say that video of their guy saying something different is also deep fake. I mean, it's turtles all the way down in that race to the bottom. But I think that with Biden, one of the things that he's tried to do to negate the age issue is make jokes about how he knew all the founding fathers to, sort of laugh it off. But it's confusing to me because while we don't see this president that much, frankly, if you look at his legislative agenda, he has been massively successful. Now, you don't have to like the things that he's gotten through Congress.
Correct.
And into law.
Correct.
But he had the Inflation Reduction Act. He had the CHIPS Act. He has been able to get through one Supreme Court justice. He has his eyes on more during a second term. I mean, this White House and this president have worked overtime and have, an impressive legislative agenda to tout. The issue, though, is that, one, a large portion of the country doesn't like that agenda, and two, we just don't see Biden that often. And, as a reporter, I'd like to see him as often as I can.
Closing thoughts here, Philip. We're talking to Philip Oigman, the White House correspondent for Real Clear Politics. Philip, coming up on the 27th is the first presidential debate. Biden threw the dates out, both of them. And I think that they thought with everything going on legally that the Trump team would say, well, wait a minute. They snapped them up. Fine, let's do them, which I think caught them a little off guard. Secondly, Joe Biden came out, his campaign came out and said, okay, we want the president to be able to sit in a chair during the debate. In other words, let's don't do it where they're standing behind podiums and all that. You have to wonder why that is. Are they worried about his stamina? Have they discovered that the longer he stands, that he exerts himself and then some of the memory difficulties kick in? I don't know. I'm just speculating. But then let me ask you this. As a news person, how closely are you going to watch the 27th debate and sit there and see if Biden truly holds his own?
Yeah, I mean, it's at the top of my list here, Pat. I'm going to be down in Atlanta, and almost as important as the clash that these two guys are going to have over policy and their vision of the country, I'm going to be watching both of them for senior moments, because that's something that voters do about and are concerned about. We'll see if both of them hold their own. I think standing in front of a podium for an hour, my legs get tired too sometimes. But for both of them, now it's a question. Do they have stamina? The American people, they want to see a healthy president, and I think that folks are going to be looking at this, as the first debate, certainly. But a lot of Democratic donors are going to be looking at this and wondering, all right, can Biden go the distance?
Especially the big dollar guys. How many more millions do I want to put into this?
Exactly, because they're going to shift that money to other down ballot races if they're not confident that Biden can keep the White House under Democratic control.
As always, appreciate you very, very much. The next time we meet next Saturday, that first debate will be in our rearview mirror. Let's do this. Let's promise that we'll take that thing and pick it apart, not just on Joe Biden, but pick it apart on Donald Trump as well. And I think a lot of it, Philip, your last thought, a lot of it, if you have people on the debate who are asking the questions, are they going to try to go after Donald Trump's jugular, and are they going to try to give Joe Biden cover? And will some of his weakness be apparent by the way some questions are asked or not asked?
Sometimes the moderators get dragged into the debate and become participants themselves rather than just umpires. I think that CNN would do themselves a favor if they stuck to the facts and they simply presented questions for both men to interact with. We'll see. The Trump campaign, they're touting the CNN debate as evidence that not only is the former president unafraid to debate, but he's unafraid to debate on a network that's not friendly to him. But yeah, time will tell. We'll see, what these guys bring to the table in terms of, actual ideas for the future of the country rather than just trying to tear each other apart.
Philip, as always, thanks so much for your time today. He is the pride of Northeast Allen County and, of course, a lot of conservative thought. As I told you before he came on, I like Philip because he's not always the Republican bearer. He is a conservative bearer and a right-thinking bearer, and I think you hear that here. He won't be afraid to tell us if Donald Trump messes up in the debate either. Philip, for your time today, my good friend, thank you very, very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Pat.
We're going to be back straight ahead right here on WOWO 92.3 FM and 1190 AM.
This is the Pat Miller Program on WOWO 92.3 FM and 1190 AM and on the WOWO app.
Hey, welcome back. And again, our thanks to Philip Wegman, and always appreciate him making himself available. He will be on with us again next week, and we want to discuss with him his take from inside the Beltway on how it is that he thinks next Thursday's debate played out. For or against Biden, for or against Trump? Was it a draw? Was it a wash? Did both candidates do well? And the people that are sitting there hosting the debate and the inquisitors, they didn't do all that great, because all those are valid points, and you've got to sit there and look at them, and you've got to be able to allow those debates to run out as they should, and you have to watch what happens and judge them as they really came out, which is always hard for me. I want my guy to do well. I want the other guy to stumble. That's just normal. But when you're sitting there and you're looking at people that are doing their job as moderators on a debate, you want to give them a little bit of leeway, and that's what we'll try to do. So that's it here for the first part of hour number 2. Hour number 2, section 3 is coming up straight ahead right after the bottom of the hour right here. And we're doing it as every Saturday on WOWO on 92.3 FM and on 1190 AM Fort Wayne. Hey, welcome back. Glad you guys are with us. And again, my thanks for Philip Wegman being with us in the last half hour. He's one of my favorite guests, and here's why. He doesn't really have a political axe to grind. It's not very often you'll hear him just say, well, as a Republican, here's what I think. No, he'll tell you. that he is more right than left. He'll tell you that he is more conservative than liberal. But if he has a person that exemplifies that, he has no problem supporting them. If he has somebody from his party that doesn't exemplify that, he has no problem telling you that either. And I find that refreshing. Plus, Philip is from here. He's from Northeast Indiana, and he went to school up at Hillsdale, just between you and me. If I knew then what I know now, if I had had the money and if I had been aware of the world around me when I graduated from high school, I would have applied to Hillsdale. Don't know if I'd have gotten in, but I would have applied. So I think it's just incredible that Philip and his sister, by the way, both went to Hillsdale. They've both made Northeast Indiana proud, and he's done it for the last several years, representing journalism inside the Beltway. And, well, Pat, why does he stay? Why does he stay so conservative? Well, because Mom and Dad still live here, and I don't think he wants to come home for Thanksgiving and have Mom tie a knot in his tail. So there you go. So welcome back to the program. Remember, while we're on the air, 46862. That's 46862. Text the word WOWO first. Your question or comment comes right here. Or you can email me when we're on the air or even after we're gone, and you can email me at patmiller@wowo.com. Pat Miller, all one word, no dots or dashes, at wowo.com. Let's talk about women here for a little bit. Every woman, Gary Bauer said this, every woman in America needs to understand that they are at risk because of the open border policies promoted by Joe Biden and the Democrat Party. Why just women? Aren't we all? I'm not talking about the risk of them taking our jobs, taking our money, none of that. I'm talking about the odds of somebody being raped or beaten or hurt, that every time an illegal comes across our border, the chances of that increases. The debate over illegal immigration is not a hypothetical debate. We can see numbers that when this many come across, this much crime happens. How many times have we seen a lady murdered in California, a lady murdered in Georgia, a lady beaten up in New York, a lady killed in Tennessee? And somewhere in the story, it appears that the assailant was in the country illegally. That's getting a little old with me. I don't know about you. I'm getting a little tired of it. But that seems to be what it is and what's happening. It's not hypothetical. It's in the land of reality. It's about the safety of our wives, our daughters, and our granddaughters. Now, I don't have a granddaughter. I know many of you do. But our wives, our daughters, and our granddaughters, and sometimes our mothers. I mean, let's just be honest about it. I'm not sure what it is we need to do. I was sitting watching with Kim the other day. It was on, I believe it was on Fox News. And it was a story of, I know it was on Fox News because it was part of Fox and Friends in the morning, which I don't get a chance to watch all the time anymore, but I was watching this one. Happened on Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning. And there was a young lady, very attractive young lady. And by very attractive, she's not going to be Miss America. But she's a very cute, very sweet, very presentable young personality. And she was there with her mother and Senator Ted Cruz from the state of Texas. And they were recounting a story that happened to this young woman. In the high school that she went to, somebody who also went to the high school that she went to took her image online and doctored it. Caused her face to appear over the head of a naked body, and was done so well, so very, very well, you could not tell that the photo was not original. So because of that, you've got a young lady who now everybody in her school, and within short order, everybody in her town and across the country, everybody began to say, well, she's not who we thought she was. Look how horrible that is. It's just absolutely incredible. What's happened here? This young woman did nothing. She did nothing. Let me say it one more time. She did nothing to get what happened to her. And yet, it happened to her. Why? Why should that happen to her? Why should that take place? At a time when we've got people, like Justin Timberlake and others that get caught for drunk driving and doing things that they shouldn't do, that with all of that, and them saying, I'm being treated unfairly. What about somebody who does nothing but go to school? Okay? That's all this young lady did. Okay? And yet, her life was basically destroyed. In a short time, all of this happened to her. Should not have happened to her. And so now there's a bill, which is bipartisan, which is targeting deep, fake, revenge porn. Do you ever want your daughter, 14, 15, 16, the subject of something regarding porn? Now, this young lady, her name is Elliston Berry, and you can find more out about her online. Elliston, Elliston, Berry, Berry. She and her mother and Senator Cruz is sitting there saying, look, this has got to stop. You can't reach into the lives of our young people, especially our young women, and destroy them like this. You just can't do it. You just can't. AI is a scary thing to me. There are some, and some of them have done it, and maybe some of you listening right now, even here in the greater Fort Wayne area, you have done it. You have taken my voice and made me say things I did not say. I challenge you to do this. The next time you want to do that, rather than doing that, why don't you come on my program live in the studio with me and say, this is something I think you said, and we'll debate it out. If I hold a position you don't like, so you want to do AI on me and make it come out as a position that's totally different, so people go, man, what happened to Miller? He's gone totally left. He's gone totally wacko. No, I haven't. I heard it. Play it for me, email it to me, send it to me. Tell me where you found it, how it got there, and we will come to the end of it and find out what's going on. But look, to go into the life of a young child, and I consider a 15, 16, 17-year-old still a young child in the context of what we're talking about here, and to make her the mockery of her school. Do you think guys were just rushing to ask her out after that came out? And if they did, do you think they had the purest of intentions for her? She was highly traumatized. And according to her and her mother's testimony this morning that I heard earlier in the week, that I'm reading to you this morning, according to their testimony, they were unable to get this removed from social media for 9 months. 9 months. Why so long? If something comes out that somebody doesn't like, it gets pulled off like that. If you're a leftist, if you're a Democrat, if it's something you don't want, if it's something against Joe Biden or something against Hillary Clinton, and you don't like it for political reasons, that gets yanked in a heartbeat. 9 months? A negative picture of your daughter online that's not a picture of your daughter, just the face? How long would it take you to rattle somebody's cage? I'm going to talk more about this when I come back straight ahead on this Saturday. Very glad you're with us. Stay with us. Stay tuned right here at 92.3 FM and 1190 AM.
This is the Pat Miller Program on WOWO 92.3 FM and 1190 AM and at WOWO.com.
Hey, welcome back to the Pat Miller Program. Very glad that you are with us. And we're going through the day here on this Saturday as we continue to march through. Remember, if you want to send me a message while I'm on the air, Pat Miller at WOWO.com, those emails will come to me here and at home, so I can be anywhere on the air or off the air, middle of the night sometimes. Some of you send me middle of the night emails, which is kind of cool because I can tell what's happened. The way you're saying what you're saying is you caught some of our show and maybe you work all night and you're sleeping all day long. I get that. So anytime you want to try to get a hold of us, get a hold of us. It's very, very cool, and we appreciate it very, very much. So we've got this situation where this young lady had her life basically torn up. And it's being torn up because of the unfairness of it. This young girl, I went back and looked at my notes. She was not 15, 16, 17. She was 14 when this happened. 14. And it was done against her will, against her knowledge. It's not like she sent a naked picture to a boyfriend. And ladies, if you're doing that, knock it off. It will come back to hurt you, and it will come back to be a real problem for you. So don't do it. This bill that they've come out with, okay, for fighting this kind of thing, this deep fake nonsense, it's a landmark bill that they have done to protect not just young people, anybody, but particularly young people, where they can have their lives screwed up over things they did not do. And the social media platforms that put this stuff up, if it's wrong for me to post a video of somebody 14 years old naked or doing something sexually aggressive and I get in trouble for it, shouldn't the platforms that allow it to be on there, shouldn't they be under the same problem? I mean, shouldn't they? Shouldn't they? The act is called the Take It Down Act. In other words, take it down. The mother of this young lady was getting a hold of the social media platform for 9 months. 9 months. When she finally called Senator Cruz's office, Cruz was beside himself and brought his staff in and says, you get a hold of whoever we need to get a hold of, and you get this down and take it off the air. This can't happen. This can't happen. And Cruz's office found out what was the media platform, found out from the young girl's mother, got a hold of them, and within minutes, it came down. Is that the only choice we have? Is to get a hold of a sitting member of Congress or a sitting member of the Senate and have them jump in? Look, I'm glad Cruz did it. I'm glad that they felt the reliability of doing that. What if you live in a state where your senator maybe wouldn't take such a stand as Cruz did? You're kind of stuck, aren't you? Aren't you? But Cruz's office did it. And so then they said, not only have we stopped this one, we've got to stop all of them in the future. The Take It Down Act. If a parent or even anybody, if they get a hold of them and say, this quote of mine is not a quote of mine, or this photo of me is not a photo of me. Maybe it's not even a suggestive photo. Maybe it's a photo that somebody took and put your face and body in it so that it looks like you were at a rally for something you don't believe in. That shouldn't be out there. Look, we are in a society today where we have trouble with people trying to report news as it is. And now we've got people in the media trying to put forward media that is not accurate because they're making it up. How does that work? How can we allow that to happen? I just don't understand, A, how it happens, and B, why we put up with it. We talked about misinformation on the part of Biden. You want misinformation? This is it. This is misinformation. Not playing a whole clip of Joe Biden and you're saying, well, this is misinformation because you're showing him stumbling and not being able to talk. Okay, but it's not, because it actually is him. Once, but that's called misinformation. Why? Well, because he's our guy. Not real sure. The way this act works, as Senator Cruz and his people put this forward, is if in fact somebody is found guilty for displaying something of what could be described as pornographic in nature, that if they're found guilty, 2 years in prison. If the person that was targeted is an adult, 3 years in prison if they're a minor. And it's a felony. Goes on your record, as it should. As it should. Look, there's a case like this that happened in New Jersey. Guess what? The young men that did this to somebody in their school are still in school. How can that be? Do you want a kid in school that you know put out pornographic stuff for a girl in your daughter's class? And understanding, even though they were caught, they could do it again with your daughter? How badly do you want them still in that school? So 2 years if you did it and you targeted somebody who is not a minor, 3 years if you targeted somebody who is a minor, it is a felony. And whatever platform it's on, okay, you've got 48 hours to take it down from the time you were first notified. And there are going to be ways in the law that the victim can sit there and date, either email, phone call, text, date and time. This is when I notified them. And then if somebody checks in 48 hours and it's not down yet, then guess what? The social media platform is also in trouble because they are also participating in what's going on. We might not like it. We might not think it's fair, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Again, this is the very sad story of Elliston Berry out of Texas, but this isn't the end of it. It's not the beginning of it. It's not the end of it. How many times has this happened? And because sometimes schools or school systems or politicians locally want to protect the person that perpetrated all this, they help hide it. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. This is a young girl that doesn't want to drag the names of the people that did this to her all over media. She's not trying to do that. She's not trying to cause that kind of problem. She just wants it to stop and have it stop for good. I don't see anything wrong with that, do you? I mean, I don't. I don't see anything at all wrong with that. Coming up in the next hour, as we're talking about young ladies, and we're just now on the cusp of coming out of Father's Day last weekend, a father has told police officers in Washington State that he caught a rideshare driver sexually assaulting his daughter. I'll tell you a little bit how that story plays out. Let me just tell you. He did what I would have done. He did what I would have done. I don't live in Providence area of Olympia, Washington, but I would have done primarily what he would have done. I'll tell you what that was, and I'll tell you what some of the online feedback is to this father for what he did. We need to start standing up for our kids. We need to start standing up for fatherhood. We need to start standing up for fatherhood. I talked about this a little bit last week because of Father's Day. I'm talking about it right now because of these stories, these horrible stories that we're having to cover. And let me just say this to you, Dad. If you are a dad, be a dad. Please be a dad. If you want your daughters to love you forever, do what this guy did. We'll talk about it all coming up straight ahead here after the top of the hour. Fox News first, and then I'll be with you just the other side. Thank you for being with us as we roll into the third and final hour of our Saturday program right here on WOWO 92.3 FM and on 1190 AM.
Podcasts by Federated Media.